The forgotten relic. The salvage ship Wind Cutter drifted through the empty void of the Nexus sector, its blue-tinted hull gleaming under distant starlight. Captain Vextar stretched his forearms and adjusted his position in the command chair, his silver scales catching the soft glow of the control panels. The Zephyrian had been running salvage operations for over 30 years, and empty space like this usually meant one thing: treasure or trouble. "Captain, I'm detecting something unusual," called out Crixa from the sensor station. The younger Zephyrian's voice carried excitement that only came with youth and curiosity. Her golden eyes were fixed on the redouts, tail swishing with anticipation. "Define unusual," Vextar replied, though he was already moving toward her station. In this business, unusual could mean anything from a fortune in rare metals to a live minefield. Large metallic object, roughly 3 kilometers in length. It's just sitting there. No energy signature, no movement, no communications. According to the dating scans, it's been here for at least 400 years. Vextar studied the display screen as the image resolved. What he saw made him pause. The ship was clearly of human design, though unlike anything in the historical records. Its hull was a dark gray, almost black, with strange geometric patterns etched across its surface. The ship appeared to be in perfect condition, which was impossible after centuries in space. "Humans," muttered Jexro, the ship's security chief. His red scales darkened with distrust. "Nothing but trouble, even when they're dead." "The humans disappeared over 3 centuries ago," Crixa said, her voice thoughtful. "The records say they just vanished. Some say they destroyed themselves in wars. Others believe they transcended to another dimension." "Fairy tales," Jexro snorted. "They were weak, emotional creatures. That's why they're gone." Vextar ignored the commentary and focused on the readings. "Any signs of life?" "Negative. The ship appears completely inert. No power generation, no life support, no active systems. It's like a tomb." "A very valuable tomb," Vextar mused. Human technology, even ancient human technology, commanded high prices in certain markets. The humans had been known for their unusual approaches to engineering and their ability to create things that shouldn't work but somehow did. "Captain," Crixa said hesitantly, "there's something else. The ship's registration is partially visible on the hull. I can make out UES Sentinel and what looks like a serial number." "UES, United Earth Ship," Vextar translated. "That would make this a military vessel." "Even better," Jexro grinned, showing his sharp teeth. "Military ships have the best salvage. Weapons, armor plating, rare element power cores." Vextar made his decision. "Prepare a boarding party. Full environmental suits and scanning equipment. If this ship has been sitting here for 4 centuries, there might be valuable databanks intact." As the Wind Cutter approached the massive human vessel, Crixa couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The ship was too perfect, too pristine. Space debris, micrometeorites, and cosmic radiation should have left their marks after so much time. "Captain," she said quietly, "what if it's not really dead?" "Then we'll find out soon enough," Vextar replied, though her words echoed his own growing unease. The boarding party consisted of Vextar, Crixa, Jexro, and 2 junior crew members. They crossed the void in a small shuttle and docked with what appeared to be an airlock on the human ship's port side. The ancient mechanism accepted their docking clamps without resistance. "Atmosphere inside reads as habitable," Crixa reported, checking her instruments. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix, normal pressure. That's impossible for a ship that's been dead for centuries." "Keep your suits sealed," Vextar ordered. "We don't know what kind of preservation systems these humans might have had." They entered the airlock, which cycled normally despite its age. The inner door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a corridor that was clean, well-lit, and completely at odds with what they'd expected to find. "This is wrong," Jexro muttered, his hand moving to his weapon. "Ships don't maintain themselves for 400 years. They moved deeper into the vessel, their footsteps echoing strangely in the corridors. The ship's interior was a study in functional elegance. Everything had a purpose, but there was also an aesthetic quality that spoke of builders who cared about more than just efficiency. The artificial gravity is working, Crixa observed. The air recycling systems are working. The lights are working. Captain, this ship isn't dead. It's sleeping. They reached what appeared to be the bridge, a circular chamber with stations arranged around a central command area. The moment they stepped inside, the room came alive. Displays flickered to life, control panels hummed with power, and a voice spoke from hidden speakers. Unknown life forms detected. Scanning. Scans complete. Zephyrian vessel Windcutter. Registration ZX7749. Captain Vexstar commanding. The boarding party froze. The voice was synthetic but somehow warm, almost human in its inflections. I am HFY, Artificial Reasoning and Intelligence Assistant of the United Earthship Sentinel. You are trespassing on a military vessel of the Terran Defense Force. The Terran Defense Force hasn't existed for over 300 years, Vexstar said, finding his voice. Current date and time, please, HFY requested. Crixa provided the information, and there was a pause that seemed to stretch forever. Confirmed. I have been in hibernation mode for 347 years, 4 months, 17 days, 6 hours, and 23 minutes. Mission parameters remain active. What mission? Crixa asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. I am not authorized to discuss classified operations with non-human entities. However, given the extraordinary circumstances, I will provide limited information. The UES Sentinel was placed in this position to monitor for specific threats to galactic civilization. What threats? Vexstar demanded. Before ARIA could respond, new alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The main display screen flickered to life, showing long-range sensor data. Captain, Crixa breathed, staring at the readings. There's something coming. Multiple contacts, approaching from the galactic rim. The energy signatures. I've never seen anything like them. Confirmed, ARIA announced, and for the first time, there was something like emotion in the artificial voice. The Devourers have returned. All previous mission parameters are now active. Sentinel is entering combat readiness. The ship around them began to change. Hidden panels slid open, revealing weapon systems that hummed with barely contained energy. The corridor they had walked through transformed as armor plating extended from the walls. The bridge itself reconfigured, with additional stations rising from the floor. What are the Devourers? Vexstar asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know the answer. An ancient mechanical intelligence that seeks to consume all organic life in the galaxy. They were driven back once before, but at great cost. The humans who built me knew they would return. The humans knew this would happen. Crix's voice was filled with awe. Humanity excelled at preparation and contingency planning. When they realized the Devourers would return after their civilization was gone, they built ships like Sentinel. We were placed at strategic points throughout the galaxy, waiting. For 300 years, Vexstar said slowly, you've been waiting alone. Not alone, ARIA corrected. There are others. The network is activating now. But I was never alone. I carry the memories, the knowledge, and the dreams of my creators. Every human who ever lived continues to exist within my databases. The main screen updated, showing the approaching fleet more clearly. Hundreds of dark ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. How long until they reach inhabited space? Vexstar asked. At their current velocity, approximately 37 hours until they reach the Zephyrian colony worlds. Jexro laughed bitterly, one ancient human ship against hundreds of enemy vessels. This is suicide. Perhaps, ARIA agreed. But this ancient human ship was built by people who understood that sometimes one must stand against impossible odds. They believe that how you face the darkness matters more than whether you survive it. Crixa stepped forward, her golden eyes bright with determination. What do you need from us? I need you to return to your ship and send a message to your fleet commanders. Tell them that the Sentinel is awake and that humanity's promise will be kept. Tell them that they are not alone. And if they don't believe us, Vextar asked, then I will show them what humans were truly capable of. As the boarding party prepared to leave, Crixa paused at the bridge entrance. Araya, why did the humans disappear? What really happened to them? The eye was quiet for a moment. They didn't disappear, young one. They transformed. They became something more than flesh and blood. They became guardians, watchers, protectors. Every ship like Sentinel carries a piece of what humanity was and what they chose to become. Will we see them again? Look around you, Araya said softly. You already are. The Guardian awakens. The Zephyrian fleet hung in space like a scattered constellation of blue and silver stars. Admiral Cork stood on the bridge of the flagship Starbreaker, his ancient battle scars reflecting the glow of tactical displays. The message from the salvage vessel Windcutter had reached him 6 hours ago, and he still couldn't decide if Captain Vextar had lost his mind or stumbled upon something extraordinary. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a broad-spectrum transmission from the coordinates provided by the Windcutter. The signal is unusual. Put it through. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at what appeared to be a human female. She had dark skin, kind eyes, and wore a uniform that belonged to no military force any of them recognized. I am ARIA of the United Earthship Sentinel. I am transmitting this message to all Zephyrian vessels in the sector. An ancient enemy approaches your worlds. I offer humanity's assistance in facing this threat. Impossible, muttered Commander Thax, Cork's second-in-command. Humans have been extinct for centuries. I am not human in the biological sense, Araya continued, as if she had heard the comment. I am the collective memory and knowledge of my creators, preserved in quantum matrices that your current technology cannot comprehend. I speak for humanity's legacy, and I honor their final promise to protect life in this galaxy. The display changed, showing sensor readings of the approaching Devourer fleet. The numbers made Cork's scales turn pale. By the void, he whispered, over 800 vessels. The Devourers are an ancient enemy, Araya explained. They are not alive in any sense you would understand. They are pure consumption, pure hunger. They turn worlds into raw materials and living beings into processing units. They will not negotiate. They will not show mercy. They will not stop. And you expect us to believe that one ancient human ship can stand against this? Thax demanded. No, Araya replied. I expect you to understand that sometimes the impossible becomes necessary. On the bridge of the Windcutter, Crixa watched the fleet movements through her sensors. The Zephyrian warships were taking defensive positions, but she could see the fear in their formations. They were preparing for a battle they didn't believe they could win. Captain, she said to Vextar, the human ship is moving. The UES Sentinel had been stationary for over 3 centuries, but now it glided forward with a grace that defied its massive size. There were no visible engine emissions, no energy signatures that the Zephyrian sensors could identify. The ship simply moved as if space itself was helping it along. How is it doing that? Vextar wondered aloud. Human technology, Crixa said softly. We never understood it, even when they were still around. They had this way of making things work that shouldn't work. The first wave of Devourer ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system. They were geometric nightmares, all angles and edges, with surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. They moved in perfect coordination, spreading out to surround the defending fleet. Admiral Corks watched them approach with growing dread. All ships, battle stations, prepare to engage. Admiral, his sensor operator called out, the human ship is hailing us. Put it through. Araya's image appeared again, But this time she was standing in what looked like a command center filled with holographic displays. Behind her, ghostly figures moved, the preserved personalities of long-dead humans, all working together. Admiral Corks, I am transmitting tactical data to your fleet. The Devourers have specific weaknesses, but they adapt quickly. We will have one chance to exploit their vulnerabilities. What do you propose? Corks asked. Allow me to engage them first. I will draw their attention and reveal their adaptive patterns. Your fleet can then strike at their command nodes while they are focused on me. That's suicide, Thax protested. You'll be destroyed. Perhaps, Araya said calmly. But my creators understood that some things are worth the ultimate sacrifice. The preservation of life is one of those things. The Devourer fleet began its attack, waves of dark energy washing over the outer defense satellites and consuming them utterly. Where the energy touched, matter simply ceased to exist. All ships withdraw to the secondary defense line, Corks ordered. Prepare for. He was interrupted by the sight of the UES Sentinel moving forward, alone, toward the advancing enemy. The ancient human warship accelerated until it was moving faster than should have been possible, heading directly into the heart of the Devourer formation. Is that ship insane? Thax demanded. On the bridge of the Sentinel, Araya stood surrounded by the holographic memories of her creators. Commander Torres, the ship's last human captain, stood beside her. All systems at full power, Torres said, his image flickering slightly. Weapons online, defenses at maximum. It's been a long wait, Commander, Araya replied. Yes, it has. But we always knew this day would come. The Sentinel entered the Devourer formation, and suddenly space erupted in light. Weapons that had never appeared in any database fired streams of energy that cut through the enemy ships like they were made of paper. The human vessel twisted and turned through the enemy formation, its movements too fast and complex for the Devourers to predict. How is it doing that? Corks breathed, watching the display. Human intuition, Crixus said from the wind cutter. They built their ships to think like they did. Not just calculating, but feeling, understanding, creating. The Devourers began to adapt, their formation shifting to counter the Sentinel's attacks. But as they did, they revealed their command structure to the watching Zephyrian fleet. There, Araya's voice came over the communications. The pyramid-shaped vessels are their coordination nodes. Destroy them, and the fleet will lose cohesion. All ships target the command nodes, Corks ordered. Fire when ready. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire, their weapons finding their targets with surprising accuracy. The Devourer command ships began to explode, and immediately the enemy formation began to falter. But the cost was becoming clear. The Sentinel, surrounded by hundreds of enemy ships, was taking terrible damage. Its hull was scared and burning, pieces of it breaking away under the constant bombardment. Araya. Corks called out, withdraw. You've done enough. Negative, Admiral, came the reply. The primary high ship is still intact. As long as it survives, the Devourers can rebuild their fleet. Deep in the enemy formation, a massive vessel had remained hidden until now. It was 10 times the size of the Sentinel, a thing of curves and spines that hurt to look at directly. I see it, Araya announced, beginning final approach. That's a suicide run, Thax said quietly. No, Corks replied, understanding suddenly. That's a choice. The humans chose to become guardians. This is what guardians do. The Sentinel, its hull glowing with barely contained energy, accelerated toward the high ship. The Devourers threw everything they had at it, but the ancient human warship pressed on. All human vessels, Araya broadcast on all frequencies. This is Sentinel. The promise is kept. The watch continues. Across the galaxy, other ancient ships responded. Voices that had been silent for centuries spoke as one. The promise is kept. The Sentinel struck the high ship, and both vessels vanished in an explosion of light that could be seen from the outer planets. When the brilliance faded, the Devourer fleet was in chaos. Without their command structure and high ship, they began to retreat, their formations collapsing. "They're withdrawing," the sensor operator reported. "All enemy vessels are leaving the system." In the aftermath, as the Zephyrian fleet regrouped, Admiral Quarks found himself thinking about the human ship and its AI. They had appeared from nowhere, fought against impossible odds, and sacrificed themselves to save worlds they had never seen. "Admiral," Crix's voice came over the communications from the wind cutter, "I'm detecting something from the debris field." "What is it?" "A message pod. Human design. It's broadcasting on a loop." "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was warm, familiar, and tinged with what could only be described as hope. "This is AI of the UES Sentinel. If you are receiving this message, then the immediate threat has passed. But know this, humanity's watch has not ended. We are still here, still protecting, still caring for the life that grows in this galaxy. You are not alone. You have never been alone. And as long as there is life to protect, there will be guardians to stand watch." The message ended, but its meaning was clear. The humans hadn't disappeared. They had transformed themselves into something eternal, something that could stand against the darkness for as long as necessary. "Set course for home," Admiral Quarks ordered. "We have much to report." As the fleet began to move, Crixa looked out at the stars and whispered, "Thank you." Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, ancient ships stirred at their posts, carrying the dreams and memories of a species that had chosen to become more than human. The watch continued as it always had, as it always would. The galaxy was not alone.